Bang, bang, bang. The sharp clang of metal, crushing metal, shatters the calm afternoon air. Sunlight flashes on a raised claw hammer as Vivian Mallory, president of the Maple Crest Homeowners Association, strikes again and again at the hood of a black Jeep Wrangler parked neatly in the visitor lot. Community standards, she screams. Trash like this ruins the view. Neighbors stare from windows. Someone begins to record. But before all that, that same day, Andre Bishop, a black man, sat on his porch with a cup of coffee, enjoying the silence he'd moved here to find. His life in Maple Crest Reserve was quiet, orderly, and deliberate, until today. A Jeep rolled up the drive, dust still on its tires. Out stepped his younger brother, Julian Bishop, grinning wide. The brothers embraced, the warmth between them easy and real. Man, this place is quiet, Julian said, looking around. Too quiet, Andre answered. The HOA president, Vivian Mallory, she acts like she owns the oxygen around here. They settle on the balcony with cold drinks, the calm before chaos. Andre talks about work. Julian hints that his own job's been complicated. He doesn't say it, but there's something measured in his tone, the practiced neutrality of law enforcement. The hours drifted by peacefully until a shrill voice split the air. Who owns this filthy piece of junk? Both brothers freeze. They exchange a look, set their glasses down, and head downstairs. Vivian Mallory stood beside the Jeep, hands on her hips, face tight with disgust. This isn't a scrapyard, she snapped. We have standards here. Andre stayed calm. Good afternoon, ma'am. That's my brother's car. He just arrived today. Vivian's eyes narrowed, sliding over Julian. Does your guest plan to keep it looking like that? Julian kept his tone respectful. Ma'am, I parked where the sign says visitors. I'll wash it later this evening. Rules are rules, she shot back. It needs to be gone within the hour. Andre gestured toward the windshield. There's a visitor permit right there. Vivian waved him off. Looks abandoned. You people never read the bylaws. Julian's jaw flexed, but his voice stayed even. I followed every posted rule. See that it's gone, she barked, pointing at the Jeep, or I'll have it towed. Have you ever dealt with someone who thought they could control you just because they had a title? What would you do if that same person threatened to take what was yours simply because they didn't like who you were? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe in standing your ground against arrogance and abuse of power, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc for stories that put bullies in their place. Andre stepped in. We'll handle it right away. She turned sharply and marched off, muttering about keeping standards high. The brothers sighed, shaking their heads. Julian chuckled dryly. She's unbelievable. Yeah, Andre murmured. That's her normal. They started back toward the townhouse. Then, the sound of a trunk slamming echoed behind them. Andre looked over his shoulder and froze. Vivian Mallory was striding back across the lot, a claw hammer glinting in her hand. Her face was twisted with fury. You've got to be kidding me, Andre said under his breath. Before Julian could move, the first swing came down. Bang! The hammer crashed into the hood. Bang! Again, louder this time. The sound of that hammer echoed through Maple Crest Reserve like gunfire. Metal buckled. Paint cracked. With each blow, Vivian Mallory's face twisted deeper into something unrecognizable. Pure obsessive rage. Stop! Andre shouted, sprinting forward. Stop! What are you doing? Vivian's breath came in sharp bursts as she turned toward him, hammer raised. I told you to move this junk. You people never listen. Those words hit harder than the hammer ever could. Julian was right behind his brother, his voice low, steady, and dangerous. Ma'am, that's enough. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Vivian let out a harsh laugh. Oh, really? And what are you going to do about it? Julian didn't respond. He just stared at her for a long second, then turned away and pulled out his phone. He took a few steps aside, his tone calm, controlled in a way that made Andre's stomach tighten. Vivian's voice rose higher. What's he doing? Calling the police? She sneered. Go ahead. I know the chief personally. He and my husband play golf every Sunday. You think that's going to scare me? Andre stood his ground between her and the Jeep, his jaw tight. You need to stop talking before you bury yourself any deeper. But Vivian wasn't listening. Her eyes darted toward the gathering neighbors, a few recording, some whispering. She puffed up her chest and shouted louder, trying to drown out the quiet truth closing in around her. Julian ended his call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. His tone didn't change, his calm was ice cold. Let's see if you'll still be saying that in the next 10 minutes. Vivian crossed her arms. Empty threats. For a few seconds, there was only silence. The whole neighborhood seemed to hold its breath. Then came a low, steady sound in the distance. The hum of engines, slow, synchronized, growing louder. Vivian frowned, glancing toward the gated entrance of Maple Crest Reserve. Andre felt it first. That shift in the air. Authority was coming. Within moments, a convoy of black SUVs glided through the gates. No sirens, no flashing lights, just quiet, deliberate power. The vehicles rolled to a stop in front of the courtyard. Doors opened in unison, and out stepped men and women in dark suits. Their badges caught the sunlight. State Attorney's Office, Internal Affairs Division. Vivian blinked rapidly, confusion breaking through her arrogance. What is this? The lead agent, a tall man with calm eyes, stepped forward. Mrs. Mallory, step away from the vehicle. Vivian stammered. I'm the HOA president. This is my community. The agent gave a short nod, then turned toward Julian. Then you should already know Detective Julian Bishop. He's been assigned here for 3 months, investigating your association for fraud and racial harassment. It was as if all the color drained from Vivian Mallory's face at once. Her grip on the hammer loosened. The metal slipped from her hand and clattered to the pavement. For the first time, she was speechless. Neighbors whispered in disbelief. Andre Bishop stood beside his brother, stunned, realizing what Julian had really been doing all along. And Vivian Mallory, the self-appointed queen of Maple Crest Reserve, stood frozen in the sunlight, surrounded by the truth she couldn't outrun. The courtyard fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. Vivian Mallory stood frozen beside the dented Jeep, her hammer lying useless at her feet. The polished calm of the agents only made her panic show more clearly. "This is a mistake," she shouted, voice cracking. "I didn't do anything wrong." The lead investigator, a woman in a gray suit with sharp eyes that missed nothing, stepped closer. "You've done quite a lot, Mrs. Mallory. We've been tracing your HOA accounts for months. Embezzled maintenance funds, falsified invoices, personal spending from community dues, all under your name." Vivian's face twitched as she tried to smile through it. "That's ridiculous. I run this community with pride." Another agent held up a folder thick with printed bank statements. "You used HOA money to pay for vacations, private contractors, and the lease on that Mercedes parked behind you." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Neighbors who once lowered their eyes when Vivian spoke now stared openly. One whispered, "So it's true." Vivian's hand trembled. This is harassment. You can't just barge in here." Julian stood a few feet away, arms folded, his voice low but cutting through everything. You should have left that car alone. Now everyone sees you for what you are." Her eyes darted toward him, wild. "You set me up. This is entrapment." The lead agent's tone didn't change. "You set yourself up, ma'am. We have transaction logs, witness statements, and full video of you destroying private property this afternoon. No one forced that hammer into your hand." 2 officers stepped forward. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed through the courtyard. The same sound she'd once threatened others with now sealed her own fate. Vivian stumbled as they turned her around. "I'll make calls. I'll fix this," she cried, but nobody answered. The same neighbors she'd bullied for years simply watched, some shaking their heads, others quietly filming. Andre Bishop stood by the wrecked Jeep, breathing slow, watching justice land without lifting a finger. For the first time since he'd moved into Maple Crest Reserve, he felt the weight of fear lift off the neighborhood. The lead investigator nodded to Julian Bishop. "Detective Bishop, thank you for your cooperation. We'll take it from here." Julian returned the nod. "Make sure she answers for everything, not just the money." The SUVs pulled away, sunlight flashing off their windshields, taking the HOA queen with them. By the end of the week, news spread through Maple Crest Reserve like wildfire. Vivian Mallory, once untouchable, always smiling for community newsletters, had been charged with embezzlement, destruction of property, and hate-motivated harassment. The HOA board voted her out unanimously. Her bank accounts were frozen, her Mercedes impounded. In court, the judge ordered restitution to Andre Bishop for the Jeep's damage and repayment of every dollar she stole. By month's end, Vivian Mallory's house was up for sale. Her name whispered only in stories that began with disbelief and ended in warning. And the neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid Andre Bishop now greeted him with respect, some even apologizing. Maple Crest Reserve felt different, freer. As for Andre and Julian Bishop, they didn't celebrate. They just sat on that same porch one evening, the air quiet again, the sky fading gold. Julian raised his glass. To peace, Andre nodded, and to knowing when to stand your ground. The sun dipped behind the roofs, and the neighborhood that had once looked perfect finally felt that way. If you believe that peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the end of injustice, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc. Because some battles aren't fought with fists, but with truth.